Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome. It's Friday night and Paranormal Review Radio is coming to you live. I'm Anthony Agati, broadcasting from New York City, and my co-host Lucy Liefried is broadcasting from Chicago. Are you there, Lucy?
Yes, I am. Hello, Anthony. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Hey, we hope you will join the conversation tonight. We have a phone number. Our phone number is 661-244-9831. Give us a call. Now, if you're shy, there's the chat room where you can comment, share your opinion, or just say hi.
Thank you, Lucy. Well, it's Black Friday for all you crazy holiday shoppers out there. And what better way to celebrate Black Friday than to review one of the weirdest claims yet in the paranormal community, black-eyed kids. BEKs, as they are affectionately called, are a new phenomenon that has slowly invaded the Internet in the last 10 years. Lucy and I will review what these black-eyed kids are all about, what the stories and claims are behind the mysterious little brats, and discuss some of the possible explanations of who they are and why are they appearing in front of our doorsteps. Lucy, why don't we begin by telling our audience what the black-eyed kids are all about?
Sure, let's do that, Anthony. Okay, picture it. You're alone at night. Maybe you're walking towards your car in an empty parking lot. Or even better, you're at home curled up on the couch watching TV, when all of a sudden there's this loud knock at the door or the window, and it startles you. You walk over to the door or the window, and you peer out. Ready? Wait for it. Wait for it. A pair of thin, olive-skinned kids, maybe about 13 or 14 years old, with the biggest black eyes you've ever seen. Well, what would you do, Anthony?
Tell them that Halloween is over and go back to where they came from?
No. You open the door, and what do you think the kids say?
Trick or treat.
Come on, Anthony, play along with me. No. They say, can we use your phone? Or can we use your bathroom?
That's it? That's the horrifying tale we're going to discuss tonight?
Okay, that's it. Good night, everyone. No, I haven't told you the best part yet. These kids, their eyes are completely black. They are speaking in a robotic, almost trance-like tone.
Oh, well, then, yeah, that would freak me out. But still, I mean, how horrifying is that? All I would do is tell them to get lost and just shut the door.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. But what would you do if you were able to? If you were able to shut the door, but somehow these kids have some kind of power over you, and you almost feel like you're compelled to do as they say. You're basically frozen with fear, and you only hear the children's requests. What's worse is that these bizarre younglings aren't content to scare you and continue on their merry way. No. They're insistent that you help them. They're going to stare right through you with dull ebony orbs, and they demand to let them in your car or give them a ride home or that they be allowed to come into your house or use your phone. And the most horrifying aspect of all of this is that those who claim to have encountered these sinister kids, they swear that they've actively had to resist the temptation to do their bidding, as if their voices carried some sort of hypnotic influence. Now, as you mentioned earlier, Anthony, the stories of BEKs have surfaced on the Internet, but it's still in its early stages of recognition. Its popularity has not been widely noticed or investigated. I guess when you start seeing the History Channel or Sci-Fi Channel start to do documentaries on them, that's when they've hit the mainstream. I mean, there's a buzz. I mean, there's definitely a buzz about them. So what are these black-eyed kids, and why are they creeping up on us in the last 10 years? Well, no one really knows. The descriptions of these children are simply that, black-eyed kids that show up at your home or elsewhere when you're alone to ask for entrance or try and gain your attention.
Lucy, can I talk about something before you get into the phenomenon of the BEKs?
Sure.
Okay. Before we get into what there is known about, or what is known about the BEKs, black-eyed kids, we should first discuss what makes up what a normal eye is and what isn't normal. The white part of a human eye is called the sclera. I'm going to give you a little science lesson here. The sclera is a very thin tissue made up of many layers. The human eye also has a clear gelatinous known as vitreous humor. This material must be crystal clear to permit light from the rear of the lens to the retina. That's what everybody has right now. Every human being has this. Contrary to the human eye, animals such as horses, dogs, and lizards have an almost brown or black sclera. In medical documents, there is a common disease called alkaptonura, which is an eye disease that causes the sclera to turn bluish-black. It's a curable disease with drugs, eye drops, and diet, but as it reveals, it is possible for someone to have dark eyes. So, you know, this whole phenomenon that we're going to be talking about, there is relatively some scientific fact that eyes, and pupils, and the sclera can actually be completely black.
Anthony, you are so technical.
Sorry, I just wanted to get that information out there so people understand all the facts before they form an opinion on the topic. That's all I'm trying to do.
Gotcha. I understand, and thank you very much for that information. Okay, so back to the black-eyed kids phenomenon. What are some of the characteristics of black-eyed kids? Well, let's review it now, okay? Sometimes the adult, and they can be adults, I mean, it's not just children. There have been some reports of adults with black eyes. But sometimes the adult or the child dresses in attire to fit into the local population, okay, just blending in with the crowd. But odd variations can also cause the black-eyed person to stand out. Now, there are some eyewitness accounts that have stated that the clothing is either too neat, as though they are from a bygone era, or they have strange color combinations. The clothing may be baggy or dark, and some accounts describe them as looking like skater kids. When black-eyed kids approach adults, they don't act shy like a normal child would. Instead, they're often quite forceful about what they want from the adult, and they may try to intimidate or pursue. Now, these children may be verbally forceful in demanding entry into a home or a vehicle on a public street, but apparently they don't become physical. Now, there has been no physical contact with any of the BEKs. I can't say that. It reminds me of Burger King. Of the black-eyed kids until recently. There's been, I found one account where the victim, I guess if you want to call him that, actually said he did have a physical encounter with a black-eyed kid. Evil is a common characteristic that the eyewitnesses often sense from both the black-eyed children and adult beings. However, this feeling is not experienced by every eyewitness. There is feeling of uneasiness, almost to the point of terror. That seems to be the common denominator in all this. Fear is often always present when an encounter happens. In public places, such as restaurants or an airport waiting area, often people will not sit anywhere near them, especially after making eye contact. Witnesses have described an emptiness when one looks into their eyes, almost like there's nothing there. It is possible that some or all of these beings don't have a home and are roaming the earth endlessly. One eyewitness who was alone with a man in the elevator late at night asked him where he was going. The response he got was, nowhere. Now, these beings have been reported by people worldwide. I mean, this just isn't something that's happening here in the United States. And they're not known to originate from any particular location on Earth. I mean, it's totally random. One eyewitness was in an elevator with a black-eyed being. The following day, he checked the security camera videotape, but there was no record of the presence of a black-eyed being in the elevator. Only the eyewitness was seen alone on the tape. Pretty creepy, huh? A common occurrence among children with black eyes is to ask permission to enter a vehicle or a home. Now, apparently there's certain laws that these beings must follow, such as being invited in. And what's interesting is that this law requiring permission is known to apply to supernatural evil, such as demons, vampires. Now, if the laws ruling supernatural interference did not exist, then all of mankind would be in utter chaos and terror, and society would never develop to the level of what it is today. Solid form, unlike ghosts or other disembodied entities, eyewitness accounts have not spoken of transparency. These black-eyed beings appear to be solid, just like you and me, like another human person is there. And they can speak verbally, although this doesn't negate a supernatural origin. They speak in a monotone, or they can sound like a normal person. Some accounts indicate that at least some of these beings have olive-colored skin. Eyewitness accounts of these beings often take place at night or inside buildings. It's a possibility that they can't tolerate direct sunlight. We're getting very close to my vampires here. The black-eyed kids, they may have a black aura, for those of you who can see auras or are into that. Black-eyed adults could be related to the men in black, who have also appeared with pitch-black eyes to intimidate UFO witnesses. Now, men in black often appear to those who make it past a close encounter of the first kind. There haven't been any new accounts of men in black visits in recent years that I know of. Perhaps these black-eyed beings are of the same race as the men in black, who may now be unemployed. There have been more and more reports of black-eyed adults recently. Anthony, can we share some of the eyewitness accounts now that have been reported? What have you found online that we can review?
Well, are there beings or people among us whose sclera, pupils, and iris are completely black? I'm going to refer to them as beings because at this time we really don't know who or what they are. There are numerous eyewitness accounts of people like this in almost every location you can imagine and from many corners of the earth. But I have to talk about the first eyewitness, or the first real publicized account, ever to be recorded and shared with the world, comes from a man named Brian Bethel. Now, if anyone's familiar with black-eyed kids, they're going to know and they're going to relate it to Brian Bethel. His account was recorded on January 16, 1998, and I'm not sure if the account happened around that time or if he just recorded it and wrote it down. But I'm going to read to you his exact words as it was written over 10 years ago. So here we go. I don't really know what I'd call this story, if I was submitting it for publication in Fate or something of its ilk. Brian versus the evil, black-eyed, possibly vampiric or demonic, but at least not bloody normal kids. Doesn't have much of a ring to it. But that's at least an accurate title. As so many things do, it all started out innocently. My internet service provider used to have offices in a shopping center before they moved to their lush accommodations elsewhere. There was a drop box at the original location. The monthly bill was due, and thus, there but the grace of the net, I went. It was about 9:30 p.m. when I left. From my relatively isolated apartment, it's about 10 to 15 minutes or so to downtown. Right next to the Camelot Communications old location is a $1.50 movie theater. At the time, the place was featuring that masterwork of modern film, Mortal Kombat. I drove by the theater on the way into the center proper and pulled into an empty parking space. Using the glow of the marquee to write out my check, I was startled to hear a knock on the driver's side window of my car. I looked over and saw two children staring at me from the street. I need to describe them with the one feature, you can guess what it is, that I didn't realize until about halfway through the conversation cleverly omitted. Both appear to be in that semi-mystical stage of life that children get into where you can't exactly tell their age. Both were boys, and my initial impression is that they were somewhere between 10 and 14 years old. Boy number 1 was the spokesman. Boy number 2 didn't speak during the entire conversation, at least not in words. Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pullover, hooded shirt with a sort of gray checkered pattern in jeans. I couldn't see his shoes. His skin was olive-colored and had curly, medium-length brown hair. He exuded an air of quite confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed in a similar manner to his companion, but his pullover was a light green color. His hair was sort of a pale orange. They didn't appear to be related, at least directly. Oh, great, I thought. They're going to hit me up for money, and then the air changed. I've explained this before, but for the benefit of any new lurkers out there, right before I experience something strange, there's a change in perception that comes about, which I describe in the above manner. It's basically enough time to know it's too late. So there I was, filling out a check in my car, which was still running, and in a sudden panic over the appearance of the two little boys, I was confused, but an overwhelming sense of fear and unearthliness rushed in nonetheless. The spokesman smiled, and the sight for some inexplicable reason chilled my blood. I could feel fight or flight responses kicking in, something I knew instinctually was not right, but I didn't know what it could possibly be. I rolled down the window very, very slightly and asked, "Yes?" The spokesman smiled again, broader this time. His teeth were very, very white. "Hey, mister, what's up?" "We have a problem," he said. His voice was that of a young man, but his diction quite calm and, something I still couldn't put my finger on, made my desire to flee even greater. "You see, my friend and I want to see the film, but we forgot our money," he continued. "We need to go to our house to get it. Want to help us out?" Okay, journalists are required to talk to lots of people, and that includes children. I've seen and spoken to lots of them. Here's how that usually goes. Mister, can I see that camera? I won't break it or anything, I promise. My dad has a camera and lets me hold it sometimes, I guess, and I took a picture of my dog and it wasn't very good because I got my fingers in the... Add in some feet shuffling and or body swaying, and you've got a typical kid talking to a stranger. In short, they're usually apologetic. People generally teach children that when they talk to adults, they're usually bothering them for one reason or another, and they should at least be polite. This kid was in no way fitting the mold. His command of language was incredible, and he showed no signs of fear. He spoke as if my help was foregone conclusion. When he grinned, it was as if he was trying to say, "I know something, and you're not going to like it, but the only way you're going to find out what it is to do what I say." Well, was the best reply I could offer. Now, here's where it starts to get strange. The quiet companion looked at the spokesman with a mixture of confusion and guilt on his face. He seemed in some ways shocked, not with his friend's brusque manner, but that I didn't just immediately open the door. He eyed me nervously. The spokesman seemed a bit perturbed, too. I still was registering something wrong with both. "Come on, mister," the spokesman said again, smooth as silk. Car salesman could learn something from this kid. "Now, we just want to go to our house, and we're just two little boys." That really scared me. Something in the tone and diction again sent off alarm bells. My mind was frantically trying to process what it was perceiving about the two figures that was, quote-unquote, wrong. Was all I could manage. I felt myself digging my fingernails into the steering wheel. What movie were you going to see?" I asked finally. "Mortal Kombat, of course," the spokesman said. The silent one nodded in affirmation, standing a few paces behind. "Oh," I said. I stole a quick glance at the marquee and at the clock in my car. Mortal Kombat had been playing for an hour, the last show of the evening. The silent one looked increasingly nervous. I think he saw my glances and suspected that I might be detecting something was not above board. "Come on, mister, let us in," We can't get in your car until you do, the spokesman said soothingly. Just let us in, and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house. We locked eyes. To my horror, I realized my hand had strayed toward the door lock, which was engaged, and was in the process of opening it. I pulled it away, probably a bit too violently, but it did force me to look away from the children. I turned back. I offered weakly, and then my mind snapped into sharp focus. For the first time, I noticed their eyes. They were coal black, no pupil, no iris, just two staring orbs reflecting the red and white light of the marquee. At that point, I know my expression betrayed me. The silent one had looked of horror on his face, and in a combination that seemed to indicate A, the impossible had just happened, and B, we've been found out. The spokesman, on the other hand, wore a mask of anger. His eyes glittered brightly in the half-light. Come on, mister, he said. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun. That last statement scared the living hell out of me, because at that point, by his tone, he was plainly saying, we don't need a gun. He noticed my hand shooting down toward the gear shift. The spokesman's final words contained an anger that was complete and whole, and yet contained in some respects a tone of panic. We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in. I ripped the car into reverse. Thank goodness no one was coming up behind me, and tore out of that parking lot. I noticed the boys in my peripheral vision, and I stole a quick glance back. They were gone. The sidewalk by the theater was deserted. Now, that sounds to me like it just came out of a novel book. Right, Lucy?
It does, but when you're telling it, it is creepy because you can just, I don't know, it is just extremely creepy. It's just weird.
I mean, I want to give a little bit of background, and I don't want to do this just to discredit anything, because no matter what your occupation is, it shouldn't have any sort of issue or pressing comment, basically, or create a discredit for anything that you have to say. But Brian Bethel is a journalist. He's a writer, and I think it's for the Abilene News, which is somewhere in the United States somewhere. I didn't do my research on that part. But he's a journalist, and he writes for a living. I mean, any writer out there that has had background and experience can put together a story like this, put it on the Internet, and make people believe. But I don't know. I mean, it's not just him. Like you've been saying, and we've been saying tonight, there have been hundreds and hundreds of stories out there that have similar effects. And, the first reports of UFOs came out, people were saying that the same thing, that, there was pretty much a hoax, and, it's copycats. But, I mean, how can you have copycats when you've got people all over the world talking about the same experience or the same views to a T, describing these kids basically down to their eyes, what their feet look like, their clothing, the sinister act and look on their faces, and their tone and their diction and their voice. It's just, I don't know. It has that sort of effect where you believe it or you don't. But one of the little interesting facts that I actually found out, Lucy, when I was researching on Brian Bethel was about 4 or 5 years prior to his account and his publishing of this Black Eyed Kids account that he had. Back in 1994, he actually wrote a story. And it was a story about a small article story. I'm not sure if it was published or not, but it is on the Internet. So if you Google Brian Bethel, and the title of it actually is called Muppet Dream. And he talks about this dream that he had when he was a young boy. I think he was 5 or 6 in his grandparents' home. And it was, to him, it was very real at the moment, but he later sort of realized that it was just a dream, a fabricated dream that he had that just seemed to be too real to be true. And it was about him in bed and the TV in the bedroom turned on, and these quote-unquote Muppets started to talk to him through the television. And he was afraid and ran to his grandparents, and they comforted him and whatnot. But he told the story. I don't know. I just wanted to share that story with everybody to, again, just give out the information in the background behind Brian Bethel, that it could be something or it could not be anything. You make up your opinion, and I don't know. Lucy, what do you think about Brian?
You know what, Anthony, I do see where you're coming from with the fact that he's a journalist. And I know, like you said, their job is to write stories. But the thing that kind of I want to say in his favor, on the other hand, his account is basically almost the same as all these other accounts. Going through the research, reading all the stories, that terror, that fear, that's the one thing that kind of struck me. I mean, in this day of everyone has a cell phone, everyone has a camera, it did cross my mind that, okay, not one person has been able to at least snap a picture or get a shot of one of these so-called black-eyed kids. And
right, exactly.
Of course, that would play into the fact, though, that if this is something that is for real and that terror kicks in, of course, you're not going to be able to do it. But then the other part of me is sitting here thinking, okay, now if this is for real, somebody somewhere should have been able to take a cell phone picture. They take pictures of everything. On the Internet, you can take a look. There's pictures of beatings. There's pictures of plane crashes. I mean, someone always has a cell phone camera going somewhere. So my question, on this is, where is that one picture? Where is that picture to kind of like back up the story?
Well, the history behind the black-eyed kids and the description that you were talking about, basically, they create this sort of paralyzed fear in you that you can't move. And I guess your thoughts or your physical motions are paralyzed, and you can only basically concentrate on them, on their eyes, on them, the beings themselves, that you just are not able to get your phone or your camera to take that snapshot. I mean, it's so coincidental that is that, and that's the description, but that could be one plausible answer to the reason why that there are no physical evidence, no pictures or videos out there.
So, Anthony, yeah, that is a vote on the side for them being real. I mean, with the accounts coming up, and they're not stopping. I mean, the more that I looked up and the more you looked up, there's accounts everywhere. And, I'm sure if any of our listeners, if you've got an account, if you know of somebody who has had an encounter with one of these kids or beings, give us a call. Call us now. I mean, it's 661-244-9831. We're really curious
to see
what you think about it. Yeah?
Lucy, we actually have a caller on the line, and I'm going to pick it up. It's from Colorado. Hello, you are on Paranormal Review Radio.
Oh, hello.
Who is this?
Jamie.
Hi, who is this? Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. What did you want to talk about?
Hi, Lucy.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Cool. So
what did you want to talk about?
I actually heard a story, one of these black-eyed kid stories from one of my friends, and honestly, like after I heard the story, I was totally freaked out afterwards. But it was about this couple. Apparently, they were like on their honeymoon at some beach, and one of these black-eyed kids actually came out of the water and was trying to lure them into the water to like their death and stuff like that. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they describe the kids as having black eyes?
Yeah, they said they couldn't really see them because it was at night, but they did describe the black eyes, saying that that's the reason why they didn't really follow it, is because they saw that their eyes were just completely black.
And this happened to them. Okay, so the person that shared the story with you, did they believe them? Did it seem believable?
Well, this friend actually doesn't really believe in this kind of stuff. They were kind of just telling me since I'm into this kind of stuff. But, yeah, they told me because they thought that I'd be interested in it, considering that it is out there in the paranormal.
Right.
Well, what
I'm just
what
curious.
happened?
Where were they?
I can't exactly remember. I want to say maybe Hawaii.
Okay.
Actually, there have been some. Yeah, there's actually been accounts in Hawaii that I've read online. But I'm curious to find out, you mentioned that they came up out of the water and tried to, I guess, take them in or bring them in. What happened? Did they grab them? Did they touch them? Or was it just a close encounter and then they ran away?
Well, what they told me is that this kid came out of the water, was like, can you please come help me? And just like asking for help in any way they could. And they were walking towards it, but then, like I said, once they saw their eyes, they were like, no, and they just kept walking.
Wow. So do you believe in these?
Scary.
Do you believe in these black-eyed kids, Jamie?
I want to say I do, but at the same time, I kind of don't. But I do lean more towards, yeah, I do believe that they are out there. Even though I've never really.
What makes it believable to you, or somewhat believable?
I guess that the fact that the way they just like try to approach you are like so straightforward. They're just like, hey, can you let me in, help me in? Like, it makes you so believable that maybe they actually need help until you realize, if you do realize what it actually is.
Right. Well, thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for taking me.
Thanks,
Lucy, did you have any other questions?
No.
All right. Well, thank you, Jamie, so much, and take care now.
Yeah, sure, no problem, guys. You guys take care too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Anthony. So, you know what?
Yeah.
The one thing in that story that kind of hit me is, think about it. Even if these black-eyed kids aren't paranormal, someone that's kind of creepy, someone that's not on the level, someone that's, maybe a little bit of a criminal, what's the best way to get to somebody? Ask for help. To stand there and say, I need help. So, I mean, the whole basis of everything, I mean, it really does have an evil undertone.
Well, when I was doing research, I know you're familiar with this gentleman, and I'm sure most of our listeners out there are familiar with him, Father Andrew Kaulder. That name sound familiar to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He, and I'm sure folks have seen him on television. He's been on many shows, Paranormal State and Ghost Adventures, and his background, he was an investigator, he was in law enforcement, he was a cop, actually, and I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago, he became a priest. He was ordained, and he was given dispensation from the bishop and the archbishop to perform exorcism and deliverances. And he was on an interview on another radio show, and he claims that these black-eyed kids are demons. They're demons in the form of human flesh, and he says that they are not a possession. That these demons are not possessing actual live human beings, that they are coming in the form, that they are demons, but they are coming in the form of human-like. And as demons try to take on a human form, they fully can't develop. Demons will never be able to fully transform into a believable human being, the skin color, our normal eyes, nose, ears, legs, feet, everything. There's always going to be something, one thing or a couple of things on that human body that is not of human-like. It is demon. And in many of the stories, actually, that I was researching, I did find a couple of them where some of the eyewitness accounts said that, that one of the kids' feet looked deformed. It had long fingernails, and it was sort of hoof-shaped. But Father Kaulder has said that because they cannot fully develop, that their eyes are completely black. And he says, therefore, that these are sort of demons coming in the form of human beings, and that's why their eyes are black. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Lucy.
I'm kind of leaning towards Father Kaulder's view. Just the fact that the eyes are dark, and I think it could be from watching too many exorcism movies or things about demons, but the first thing you think, in my reading and things in the past, there is always something physically different, when it comes to demons. Probably the easiest thing or the most demonic thing is where the bottom of the body is literally facing a different way from the top of the body. I mean, that's a dead giveaway. But there's other things that are described, and what is probably the most, in my thought, what would be the most convincing thing that this is not of this earth? The fact that you look into the eyes, and some of the descriptions, they do say when they looked into those eyes, they saw nothing. It was a nothingness, like a soulless being, of course. So, like I said.
Well, yeah, I mean, the eyes are the windows to your soul. And so, if you cannot see within your eyes or within someone else's eyes, they have no soul. And so, therefore, hence these sort of black-eyed kids, or black-eyed adults.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Anthony, I do have a couple more interesting accounts that I'd like to share, if I could.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Another one of the numerous accounts of black-eyed kids encounters that I found interesting involved a woman named Adele. She was in the relative safety of her home when she had an experience with black-eyed kids. Now, here's her description. This is her account. I was sitting in my bedroom reading a book when at about 11 p.m. I heard a knocking, a slow, constant one. I got up out of bed to see what it was. I looked out of the window, and to my surprise, I saw two children. I opened up the window, and I asked them what did they want at this time of night. They replied, they simply said, "Let us in." I said no. I asked what for. "We want to use your bathroom." I was quite shocked that children of about 10 years old wanted to use a stranger's bathroom and at this time of night. I told them no, closed the window, but looked at them through the glass. I glanced at their eyes, and I have never seen eyes like them. They were black, completely black. I got the feeling of evil and unhappiness. It surrounded me. It was horrible. As if that wasn't creepy enough, apparently military security is no obstacle for these entities, as one Marine who was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, can attest. The Marine was up late watching a movie in the infantry barracks where he lived. Now, in November of 2009, this was the weekend, and all of his cohorts were either out drinking or they were asleep, when he heard a knock at his door, which he assumed was merely his roommate, who had a habit of forgetting his keys. When he opened the door, the young Marine would receive the shock of his life, for it wasn't his buddy standing in the doorway. It was a pair of black-eyed kids. The Marine insisted that his first instinct was to slam the door, lock it, but he wasn't able to do so. Now, he describes this experience in vivid detail. I couldn't take my eyes off their pitch-black eyes. It was like they were sucking me in. I felt horrible, and I was suddenly frightened for my life, like I needed to immediately take cover. They just stared at me with those goddamn eyes. I took a quick look up and down the walkway to see if any other Marines were out, but there was nobody in sight. I turned to the kids, who I noticed they had taken a step forward towards me. I got the feeling like I was being hunted, like these kids were predators and out for their next meal or something. Instinct gave way to reason, and I decided to listen to that voice and shut the door and locked it. Now, it would seem that even other children are not immune from contact from these entities. And if this next report is to be believed, they are even willing to get physical with those who are ostensibly their own age. Now, this alarming account was the one that I was mentioning before. It was posted online by a 16-year-old boy who had a run-in with a pair of black-eyed kids outside of his home. In his own words, typos and all, here it is. I was skateboarding around 10:30 last night, and I had stopped to take a rest when I was approached by two kids, one with blonde hair and a baseball cap pointed, and a skateboard painted all black on the bottom, and the other slightly less intimidating as he looked to be around 8. He had blonde hair also and was wearing a Spider-Man shirt. The older one spoke to me as I had my head hanging low. "Hey, kid, can you help us? We're lost. We need to use a phone. Can you take us to your house?" I looked up at them immediately, and I felt dread and despair. I stood up quickly, sensing something was wrong. "You can use my cell phone if you want." The older kid seemed annoyed, and then he looked me in the eyes. It was then that I noticed they were all black, not white, I could see. "Hey, cool contacts. Where did you get them?" I asked. "They are not contacts," he said flatly. "Yeah, well, sorry I couldn't help you guys out, but I'm going inside." I turned around and started to ride, but somehow the older kid caught up with me and grabbed my shoulder. "You will let us use your phone. We need to go inside, but we can't if you don't take us to your house." It was at this point that I hit him in the face and ran up the stairs to my house. I shook for hours. When I was on the computer, I looked outside my window, and the kids were staring at the window. I told my mother, and of course she didn't believe me. Now, like I said before, this is the first encounter that I came across where there was physical contact between a black-eyed kid and a human being. Now, does this represent a trend of increasing physical violence that these creatures will employ to get their way, or is it merely a case of a weaker individual getting bullied by an unknown entity? Perhaps only time will tell. Now, these cases and scores of others have been reported from all across the globe with very few variances. Some neglect the olive skin, while others report that the black-eyed kids were dressed in fashionable clothes of another period rather than contemporary trends. Most of these cases involve a pair of boys, but there are also reports of adult women and even one bizarre account by an elderly couple concerning a group of black-eyed teens that pulled in front of their house in a minivan. Now, while the black-eyed kids attempted to gain access to their home, they noticed that the rest of them were walking a dachshund in front of their house. Needless to say, these cases, they represent exceptions, and they're not basically the rule. You're going to get variations in the stories as you go along. And, if you go on the Internet and you start looking all these things up, there's going to be differences, there's going to be variations. But the one constant that keeps happening in all of these stories is the fear. It's the terror. Like Anthony said before, almost being paralyzed, staring into these beings' eyes and not being able to do anything. So let's presuppose this phenomenon is not only real, but it's increasing in frequency. We're forced to ask the most basic question: what the heck are these things?
I mean, well, as black-eyed kids seem to virtually materialize out of thin air, there's very little evidence suggesting a point of origin, like we were saying before. But, this, of course, has done nothing to prevent the volumes of speculation which has run rampant across the Internet. And, the theories run the gamut from the barely credible to the utterly inconceivable, either they're vampires, they could be alien-human hybrids. There's also suggestions that it could be lost souls, demons in disguise, or it's just a plain hoax. I mean, Lucy, out of this list, what would be your choice if you had to sort of pinpoint it to what these black-eyed kids really are?
Yeah, Anthony, I believe evil's real. I also believe that evil can manifest itself in different ways. Now, I'm not really sure at this point if I believe in the phenomenon yet. I would like to see more evidence. All of these accounts seem to have the same element of fear and terror. Now, if the accounts are true, why would a child, I mean, logically, let's think about this. Why would a child make anyone feel terror? Normally it wouldn't, unless there's something evil involved. A lot of the stories that say after the encounter, nightmares are common. They also say that they can still feel their presence. Right now, I'm going to vote for the demons in disguise. Anthony, what do you think they are?
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, I have two guesses. If this is real, if this isn't real, obviously it's a hoax. But if it is real, and from what these eyewitnesses are telling us is true, I would have to guess, and, I kind of sort of agree with you on it being sort of demonic, but I tend to believe that it could be some sort of alien-human hybrid. And I know it sounds strange, it even sounds strange to even say it, but to me that would be the most logical answer I can give based on what I know today, and, the lack of evidence that there is out there. You figure with all of the accounts and descriptions of what aliens look like and the swarms of accounts of, the alien abductions, why wouldn't there be a half-breed roaming the streets in our cities? If not, then it's all a hoax. And, I thank you all for giving us some sort of huge descriptive story and a continuous, interest in something that is not real. I want to get into this a little bit. There's a famous author who made an actual valid point on the subject of black-eyed kids. His name is Barry Napier, and he's reported on this phenomenon many, many times. And he's made a valid point that while the Internet is an invaluable tool for the distribution of information, it is also an easily abused medium for the transference of hearsay, rumors, and outright lies. And he says, the Internet has made it so that it is much easier to stay up to date with paranormal events. Sadly, it has also made it easier for people to spread many false claims and hoaxes. Because of this, it is difficult to tell when someone is contributing to a lie that has already fooled many readers, or if the account is truthful. One such phenomenon is the growing number of stories regarding the so-called black-eyed kids. The stories certainly reek of an almost mythological stench, but there are so many similar accounts that it is hard to look past. The events have been quietly gaining momentum in forums and paranormal websites, so quiet that many people are still not familiar with them. The black-eyed kids reports are scattered around the Internet, and chances are that a great deal of them are fabrications derived from the first reported accounts. I mean, this is a very real possibility. As well as we all know, every genuine paranormal event is riddled by scores of pranks and copycat reports. It is, as they say, par for course, but that does not mean that the concept of this phenomenon is not authentic. It simply means that investigators need to be all the more cautious when separating the truth from the exaggerations or outright lies. And I kind of actually agree with him. I mean, he puts it plainly simple. The Internet, it's riddled with stories of everything, everything paranormal and non-paranormal. And so to be a true, real investigator, or to be someone who's a lover of the paranormal world and the paranormal field and topics, you really have to sort of, again, decipher which is real, which is not. And I mean, at this point in time, I don't think we can give any credible account to the story at this point. I mean, all we're hearing are just stories, and that's it, just stories. What do you think, Lucy?
Well, you know what, Anthony, I do agree with you. I do agree that the Internet can take a simple story and give it wings, and it'll fly. Hopefully, by doing this show, by asking our listeners to keep that open mind, to keep investigating, to keep questioning, I don't think it's something that we can really just outrightly accept at this point. I think there's a whole lot more of information that needs to happen, that we need more. But they make a darn good, creepy story. That's the one part that I do agree. But like I said, I do think that I do agree with you. There needs to be more information on this. Searching the internet right now, basically, it's a lot of stories. There's not a lot of details. There's not a lot of history. Like we don't know where they came from. They just seem to appear and then they just disappear. It could be active imagination. But you know what, Anthony, when I was doing the research about the black-eyed kids, I came across a lot of information on Indigo Children.
Lucy, before you get into that, we actually have a caller. I want to see if this caller has something to add to what we were just talking about. And I believe they are from Texas. Hello, you are on the air at Paranormal Review Radio.
Hi, this is Jules.
Hi, Jules.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you for calling.
Hi, Lucy. You're welcome. I actually run a Facebook page called Phenomenon, and we have been covering the black-eyed kids. And from what you all have been saying, it pretty much parallels from what we have been researching for ourselves. And a lot of the members on our page have discussed the fact that because they seem to ask to come in, because they seem to ask to use things, that they do get that sense that they are evil. But one of the things that we found was rather interesting is that, yes, they started appearing around the late 1990s, but also the Indigo Children have started peaking around this time too. And we were kind of curious to find out if, perchance, the black-eyed kids might be here to offset the Indigos.
Well, that's a great question. And actually, Lucy and I, in our research, and you actually brought this up on our Facebook page, and we were talking about it, and we decided to sort of research it a little bit more, and we came out with some interesting facts about Indigo Children. And before we get into that, though, what are your beliefs on black-eyed kids? What do you believe they are, or do you believe that it is just a hoax?
I think it's too soon to make an actual decision on it. As just from what you've said and from what we've researched, it's mainly everything is off of the internet, and it's very hard to trust every single thing that you read that's on the internet. Mm-hmm. Just like Wikipedia, I mean, people can just make up stories to go along with it. So I'm still kind of on the fence on it, to be honest. I would like to see more information.
Jules, in your research, were you guys able to talk to any people who actually had experiences with the black-eyed kids?
No. Actually, none of the members have had actual experiences. And I found that rather interesting, too. We have over 1,000 members. And you see them in chat rooms. When I was doing research, you'll see the black-eyed kids and people chatting back and forth on various blogs and websites. But for some reason, they just seem to be only discussing it in those forums and not on actual paranormal and phenomenon pages and stuff.
So do you think that could be a residual result of the fear and terror that they feel? That they don't want to discuss it?
I think so. There's, oh gosh, it's so hard to come up with a decision to, and I would love to have more information, to be honest with you. I would love to be able to sit there and read many accounts, but they just seem so far and few between, but the ones that you do read seem to parallel each other, and that is kind of interesting.
Mhm. Well, the interest is definitely there, but I'm really glad that there are groups like yours that are researching and questioning and trying to find this. I mean, sooner or later, we'll find somebody that's willing to speak about it out loud. Right now, it is a good story. Right now, it is on the Internet. And all we can do is just keep researching and trying to find the constants. But, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that you guys have started, questioning it and looking for it. And it's through, shows like ours, groups like yours. I mean, sooner or later, I think there'll be enough information that, we can make a definitive decision on whether or not this is real or whether it's a hoax. I mean, don't you agree?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
Anthony,
great.
What do you think?
I think it is still too new. I think I'm sure that there's evidence out there. I'm sure that there's something out there, but with everything else, people are afraid to come forth. It's the credibility factor. Folks think that if they sort of speak up or share what experiences that they've had, people are going to have a double take at them. They're not going to look at them as though that they are normal human beings. They're going to say you're crazy, and they're going to say that you made it up or that you're lying. And so, that fear that people have, they aren't going to come forward. But I think it only actually takes one person for that to happen. If one person comes forward and produces any sort of evidence, I guarantee you're going to see a flood of either video or pictures or something different in regards to these black-eyed kids, that it's going to increase even more, and not just on the Internet, but you're going to start to probably hear about more and more on television and documentaries and on the radio. I don't even know of other radio stations that talk about black-eyed kids. I don't know. I only know a few, but it's still new. It's only 10 years old, 10 or 15 years old. So I think that there could be an influx of this information coming, hopefully, in the near future, and then we can sort of debate the topic even more.
Jules, thank you so much for calling. Basically, right now, what we'd like to do is that, you brought up the subject of indigo. Kids, Anthony and I actually did find some information that I think that we'd like to share with everyone now.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jules. Thank you for calling.
Thanks, Jules.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
All right.
Have a great night.
Take care now. You too.
Okay.
So, Lucy, go ahead. You want to talk about Indigo Children?
Yeah. I think it's perfect timing. Doing the research about the black-eyed kids, we came across a lot of information on Indigo Children. So let's kind of clear our minds from the little evil ones, and let's open up our minds and let's talk about indigos. Anthony, do you want to start, or do you want me to?
I can start it. I mean, this topic actually intrigues me even more so than the black-eyed kids. I've known about and I've heard about Indigo Children for a while now online, but I never actually stopped myself and read upon it or listened to anything about it up until we started to do this research on black-eyed kids. And there's some truth to BKs because the eyewitnesses are so frightened when they relive and tell their story over and over. But to me, it's just not. To me, it's an overactive creative imagination mixed with some sort of reality to it. But the Indigo Children, or the New Children, as they are also known, is a very real concept to me that may have some universal or even extraterrestrial existence to it. Now, I want to get into the idea of that, I want to get off of the BEKs, the black-eyed kids, as they give off their sinister aura, as they've been described in a lot of the witness accounts, but indigo children seem to be a gift to the planet for the new transformation that we're supposedly going to encounter at the end of 2012, as some researchers have stated. And I've heard about this phenomenon for a few years, but again, never really researched the meaning until we started to talk about black-eyed children. I've recently done some further research on the indigo children and found really amazing facts from doctors all over the world. It's actually been documented, but there have not been any sort of scientific testing on this. Okay, so the technical definition of indigo children are children that are labeled who are claimed to possess special, unusual, and or supernatural traits or abilities, which are curious, independent, strong-willed, a clear sense of self-definition and purpose, inheritably intuitive, highly intelligent, resistance to authority, creative. Some even possess a higher immunity to common diseases, and they have a sort of purple-bluish aura, hence the name indigo. Now, these children are just fascinating to learn about. Okay, so here are the facts about children, or indigo children, or the new children. They have been born in the last 100 years, but dramatic increases of these children were born in the year 1999 or 2000 and increasing in the years leading till today. I'm going to get a little scientific on you. I'm going to give you a little science class again. They're born with extra codons, and I think I'm saying that name right. We're all born with 64 codons, okay? Only 20 of these codons are active in our body, and the remaining 44 are non-active, or they're just dormant. These children, these indigo children, have 24 active codons, and the remaining 40 are dormant. That means that they have 4 extra codons working in their body. Now, again, I'm not going to get technical and bore you all with a science class, but a codon is sort of a part of an amino acid that makes up your DNA. These children have a different DNA than regular people. I mean, that's amazing. These children, I mean, to me, that's amazing. I mean, doctors have found out that they've got 4 extra codons or 4 extra pieces of amino acid working in their DNA than normal, regular human beings. To me, that's another set of life. That's another being to me, or a higher being. These children, also the idea is that these children have been either sent here from the universe, or that their spirits have sort of volunteered to come to Earth to help us transition the planet from one dimension to another at the end of 2012. And it said that the planet will be shedding its quote-unquote skin and entering into a higher realm of existence, and that these children are being born to help us see the truth and help guide us to understanding, or else we're not going to survive. I mean, okay, I know that's heavy. I know that's a little too weird of a concept to grasp, but that's what it's all about. If we were an indigo child, or are now an indigo adult, this would actually make perfect sense. However, many of these children can be categorized as indigo children, are most commonly diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and even autism. Many feel that these children are diagnosed with these diseases and that they are prescribed medical drugs and thus diminishing their inherent and spiritual traits that they're born with. That's so sad. But there's more. There's actually a second stage to indigo children, and that is crystal children. Lucy, why don't you share with everyone what you've researched on crystal children?
Okay. It is said that crystal children are the next level in an indigo child's evolution. It's said that the crystal children began to appear on Earth from between about 1990 to the year 2000. Now, these children, like I said, have evolved to the next stage in the evolution of the human species. Think about this. Yeah, how, Anthony, you were talking about the extra codons. Well, they're actually, it's evolution in progress. They're actually changing. They're becoming different. some crystals were born as indigos, and they're now making the transition into crystal. Now, some crystals are born with none of the indigo or crystal qualities, but they have acquired, or they're in the process of acquiring the qualities through their own hard work and following a spiritual path. Think about what I just said. This means that being born with none of the indigo or crystal qualities, it means possibly we all have the potential to be part of this group. Anthony, let me go over the characteristics of the crystals. They're actually quite similar to the characteristics of the indigos. They're usually born in 1995 or later. They possess large eyes with an intense stare. It's been described as being wise beyond their years. Also, it's described as a hypnotizing stare. Sound familiar? Think back to the black-eyed kid. Okay? They have magnetic personalities. They're happy. They're delightful. They're forgiving. They're highly affectionate. Hugs and kisses are the norms for them. They start talking late in childhood. Now, because of this, they use telepathy, and some of them make their own little sign language to communicate. And again, like you said, Anthony, a lot of them are diagnosed with autism or Asperger's syndrome. Now, the difference between the indigos and crystals was described like this in one site that I found. Now, the indigos, they have a warrior spirit. Their purpose is to break down any of the old systems that don't serve mankind anymore. They're the first wave. Things like government, education, legal systems that lack integrity. They're here to squash them. Now, because of this, the indigos, they have a fiery temper. Indigos don't react to guilt. Well, the crystals, they don't react to fear. Now, fear is all around us. Think about it. Terrorism, economic breakdown, war. The crystals are here to help us lose that fear, even the fear of death. They're here to help us accept the next step. They're here to help us accept the transformation that's coming, the movement to the next dimension. Crystals are described as blissful. They're even-tempered. They may have the odd temper tantrum here and there, but basically they are forgiving and easygoing. They're loving, sweet, happy children and beings. The crystals, their aura is described as opalescent or octarine. It is so bright it could appear clear. It has multicolors and pastel hues. It sounds so pretty. Now, these children, they have a fascination with crystals and rocks. Crystals tend to speak later than other children simply because of their telepathic abilities. Now, I did come across a story where the subject actually said he could hear a child who was in a stroller, about 1 or 2 years old, speak to him with his mind. Now, some of the information on crystals point towards that new age that we're coming to. This is going to be one where we're all going to be more aware of our intuitive thoughts, feelings. We're not going to rely so much upon the spoken or written word. Communication is going to be faster. It's going to be more direct, more honest, because it will be mind to mind. Already, increasing numbers of us are getting in touch with our psychic abilities. I've said this before. I think everyone has the ability to do it. Our interest in the paranormal is at an all-time high. It's accompanied by books, television shows, radio shows, movies on the topic. I mean, Anthony, look at us. Look at our listeners. We are interested in this. The interest is not going away. It's continuing. The crystals are here to help us find those answers. Now, the crystals, like I said, they seem to be incredibly telepathic. Their speech patterns are delayed because of this. Some crystals, again, they don't talk until they're 3 or 4 years old. Now, it doesn't seem to be a problem for the parents of these kids. There are actually books that I found, which I found one which is a guide to raising a crystal child. It doesn't seem to be a problem because the child is not speaking. They seem to use a kind of mind-to-mind communication with their parents. And these children, they're communicating by telepathy. They also use the kind of sign language that they'll develop themselves. They use sounds. They sing. Now, if you think about it, these children could almost mistakenly be classified as autistic. Anthony, you said that with the Indigos. A lot of them are being drugged. They're using Ritalin. I mean, it's just a shame that if a child is different, or if a child is a little bit more rambunctious, or if a child is not behaving in the norm, that nowadays they're so quick to use drugs, or they're so quick to try to modify that behavior. These poor kids, they can be classified as autistic. Now, unfortunately, like the Indigos, they're judged by medical and educational personnel by their so-called abnormal speaking patterns and their different behaviors. Again, they're being drugged and they're being hindered in what their purpose is because of this. Now, the more crystals are born, the more cases of autism is reported. They have innate spiritual gifts that are misunderstood. Now, an autistic child will remain in their own little world, and they have no thought of the surrounding world. Crystals are among the most connective, communicative, caring, and cuddly of any generation. They're also quite philosophical, and they're spiritually gifted. They display an unprecedented level of kindness and sensitivity to the world. They care about strangers. They care about other people. They care about their little friends. They're spontaneous. They hug. They care for people in need. Now, autistic children most likely wouldn't do that. Crystals are extremely sensitive. You know, it's hard to hide anything from these children. Crystal children seem to know what's in your head, and most of all, they seem to know what's in your heart. Now, the main purpose of the crystal children is to help us move on to the next level of our evolution. They're here to help us discover our inner power and to enlighten us to the higher power. Sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? The crystals seem to work as a group instead of individuals. They seem to live by a law of one. They're little advocates of love and peace on this planet. Where the Indigos are the little warriors that clear the way, the crystals are the guide. You know, Anthony, I got such a different feeling when I was reading about this from when I was researching the Black-Eyed Kids. Personally, I have a tendency to hug people I've just met. And reading the description of the crystals, it's like I could feel how wonderful they are. I mean, the whole attitude was so different. You know, I really wonder how many I've actually met so far. You know, doing the research, the 60s came into my mind. Peace, love, harmony. You know, and can we become like them? That is such a beautiful thought.
It is, and you know, it's such a different topic than where we went from the beginning of the show talking about Black-Eyed Kids to Indigo Children and Crystal Children. It's a sort of a complete opposite. And getting back to what Jules had mentioned on the phone call earlier, that you know, could it be that these either it's you know, it's the BEKs, the Black-Eyed Kids that are sort of coming in and interfering with the work and the mission of the Indigo Children and the Crystal Children? Could that be a possibility that they're coming in to interfere with that so that we don't promote ourselves up to that next higher level in preparation for what's to come and the change that's going to come? You know, I could say that could be true. I mean, you know, again, we don't have all that information about Black-Eyed Kids, and we don't have that much information also about Indigo or Crystal Children scientifically. But you know, it could be a possibility. It's sort of that yin and yang, and that good versus evil. You know, they could be coming in to sort of offset whatever is happening, but or whatever the Indigo Children are trying to put forward and create for us. I just think that this, yeah.
Think about it. Think about it that now reading about what you've read about the Black-Eyed Kids and then what you found out about the Indigos and the Crystals. What about if there is this unseen battle that's going on between the little evil ones and the little good ones that are trying to thwart the progress of mankind. I mean, all of this could be happening, and we don't know anything about it.
I don't know. I mean, I can see that point. I can definitely see it. But I think while I was researching and reading up on Indigo Children and Crystal Children, the New Children, Star Children, Rainbow Children, all of those labels that they've been given, I think, I mean, I have noticed in the last 15 years that kids have become much more smarter, much more affectionate, much more adult-like, at the age of 2 and 3 and 4, that they're acting as though that they're 10 years ahead of their time. And I've always commented on that, and I've said that to many people that, whenever I've met someone's child or, even my own nieces and nephews, they just seem to have developed much quicker and have a much better understanding than I ever did, or people, 30, 40 years ago ever realized that they could sort of have the knowledge of. I mean, I think that there is some real fact to Indigo Children and Crystal Children. I think that there could be some possibility. I believe in the whole idea of the Earth, the planet, and the universe sort of evolving and changing, and I think there could be some possibility of some sort of change in 2012. I don't think it's, how we had that topic on an earlier show about the world ending. I certainly don't believe the world is ending, but I think there is some sort of change that's going to happen. And I think these kids are here to make and hopefully transition us into that change. Now, could black-eyed kids be the interference of some sort of demon, evil realm or quote-unquote evil god that is trying to sort of persuade us not to make that change and destroy the Earth? I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, I think maybe black-eyed kids could be another aspect of the paranormal, some other phenomenon, either it be alien or demonic. But I think that these Indigo Children and that these Crystal Children are here for a mission, and I don't think, first of all, I don't think anything is going to stop them. I don't think anything has stopped them because they themselves now have been able to evolve into the next stages. And I think, Lucy, in your research, which I think you're going to get into, they've evolved into several stages after the Indigo Children. There's many steps after that of higher hierarchy. And I think if, these other forces, either it be black-eyed kids or not, I don't think, they're accomplishing what they were set out to do, if that was the case. And I don't think that there's anything out there that's going to stop the Indigo Children and the chain of hierarchy that are coming in changing the position of the Earth and the position of your whole spirit into the new transition into another dimension.
Well, Anthony, if you will let me, I did find information on the next level involved with these little angels. And that's what in my mind, it just clicked. They are little angels. They are. I just was so enamored of this subject. I mean, it just went from one end of the spectrum to the other. But there are Rainbow Children, and Rainbow Children is the next level where Crystal Children evolved to. The Rainbow Children, they are the third generation of special children that have come to help humanity evolve. Now, they are different from the Indigo and the Crystal Children. Rainbow Children have a few more interesting characteristics. Generally, they were born in the year 2000 and above, okay? So in some cases, there might have been what several sites, several authors described as scouts, that there were Indigo Scouts that came first to kind of like just check out what the landscape was like. Then Crystals had scouts that came forward, and there's also some Rainbow Scouts. So every once in a while you would have like one of these children or beings that were born ahead of time, just kind of like to check things out. The Rainbow Children, the few Rainbow Children that are here today, now there's supposedly there's not that many, there's a few of them, but they're actually born from the Crystal Scouts. The Crystal Scouts that came here, grew up had children, and their children are the Rainbow Children. As the name implies, the Rainbow Children, they've come to Earth with a few more other spectrum of ray color, their aura. They're born on the 9th dimension of consciousness, the dimension of collective consciousness. Now think about it. What does this mean? You go back to the Beatles when they went to India and they were studying with the Maharishi and they were looking for collective consciousness. Think about the hippies in the 60s. I mean, this whole subject just opened up that whole area. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like what they were talking about. But they're here to they've achieved what all these people have been trying to get to. They have this collective consciousness. They're one with the world. Now, as many people might have experienced it, the Rainbow Children, they bring joy. They bring harmony to their families. Unlike the Indigo and Crystal Children, the Rainbow Child is born to smile, and it's accompanied by their huge hearts that are full of forgiveness. Now, their characteristics, very few are incarnated. Now, I wasn't really sure what this means. I looked it up, and the definition of incarnation means that some kind of spirit has taken form in a physical human body. So I'm assuming, and Anthony, I don't know, if you want to chime in here, if they're not incarnated, that means they're truly their own being, that there's nothing else there. I don't know.
Well, no, what I've come to understand from the research, that there are souls in the universe, either on other planets or within the space itself. And these souls have come to inhabit body form. And these souls are of the other dimensions, of the higher realm, either they are of the indigo level, of the of the crystal level, or the rainbow level, or star level. It's sort of like a class system of these souls. And like what you were mentioning earlier and what we were talking about was that, first the indigos came and sort of, took a machete and sort of whacked out everything and made it clean. And then the crystal children are coming in now to sort of spread the word and show the love and help transition us. And, these rainbow children, now you're going to talk about their characteristics. I think it's just these souls that have just incarnated human form, human bodies, and sort of been incarnated onto the earth to grow up and start from a child and for lack of a better word, infiltrate, the planet from the inside. The whole idea of the universe is that they can't physically make any changes from the outside. They cannot come at the planet and say, okay, no more war and war ends, or no more famine and famine is gone and everybody is good. They can't do that. That's the law of the universe. So the only way that they could do it was sort of infiltrate into the planet itself by incarnating these souls of all these different levels into the body form of a human being and start from within and create that change from within, not from the outside. That's what I had gathered from my research.
I get it. It just clicked. See, that's what I need you for, to tell me what I don't understand. Well, like I said before, their parents are usually crystal adults. They've never been incarnated before. It said no karma. They do not choose dysfunctional families, and they're all about services. They have big eyes like the crystal children, but they're totally trusting. And they are entirely fearless of everybody. Now, here's the wonderful difference. Bringing in the healing rainbow energy, previously brought on through Reiki, Qigong, and pranic healing, and other hands-on healing. These children are healers. These children are the ones that can put their hands on somebody and heal. Now, crystal children can also be very high energy, have strong personalities, be creative, and instantly manifest everything they want or need. The purpose of rainbow children is to complete the final stages of the foundation that the indigo and crystal children have made. Now, the three the indigos, the crystals, and the rainbows, each one of them have their specific test. Rainbow children are perfectly balanced in their male and female energies. Now, they're confident without aggressiveness. They're intuitive and psychic without effort. They're magical. They can bend time, become invisible, go without sleep and food. The crystal children, their sensitivities make them vulnerable to allergies and rashes. Now, the angels say that rainbow children will have to overcome this aspect. Rainbow children have no karma, so they have no need to choose chaotic childhoods for spiritual growth. The rainbow children operate purely out of joy, not out of need or impulse. The babies will be recognized because their energy is one of giving to the parents, not of neediness. Parents will realize that they cannot outgive their rainbow children, for these children are a mirror of all actions and energy of love. Whatever loving thoughts, feelings, and actions that you send to them are going to be magnified and returned 100-fold. Rainbow children are already attuned to the world we're moving towards, when things will instantly manifest. Humanity as a whole isn't there yet. So our mass consciousness grid, it holds back instant manifestation from being commonplace. A toddler has a hard time understanding that. If they feel they think juice, well, then juice needs to appear. In higher dimensions, this may be true, and according to what I'm reading, it will be true here on Earth as well, thanks to the rainbow kids making it so. Now, these rainbow children, they have strong will. They have strong wills and personalities. They're very high energy. They're very in tune to color and color vibrations. They have passionate creativity. They love bright clothing and colorful environments. They bubble over with enthusiasm for everything in life. Again, they expect juice to be there. They expect instant manifestation of whatever they think or they need. They have the healing abilities. They have telepathy. The rainbow children seem to be here to implement the divine will, and they will use their strong energy to build a new world on the foundation of peace and harmony that the crystal children are laying down. Crystals are here to start to put the foundation, and the rainbows are here to make it happen. Trying to see. The rainbows are highly sensitive. They're loving. They're forgiving. They're magical like the crystal children. But the difference is that the rainbows have never been on Earth before, so they don't have any karma to balance. The rainbows, therefore, choose entirely peaceful and functional households. They don't need chaos or challenges to balance karma or to grow. As the other crystal children grow older, they will be the peace-loving parents who birthed the new rainbow children. Now, the rainbows being born right now, they're the scouts, and the large influx of rainbows probably will occur in the years more 2010 through 2030, so the next 20 years or so. Rainbow children are absolutely open-hearted. They love unconditionally, and they have no fear towards any stranger. Unlike the crystal children who only display affection to people that they trust, the rainbows are universally affectionate. They will heal us with their huge heart chakras, and they will envelope us in a blanket of rainbow-colored energy that we all really need. They are our earth angels. Anthony, what started out as a creepy, scary subject turned into a pleasant, happy, and wonderful experience. I'm so full of hope for the world if these children continue their work. I mean, it's how perfect can it be? Children saving the world. I really think that they're real, and I really hope so. What do you think?
It's very new age, you know. It's a new age concept. It's sort of like 60s hippie, you know, flower child, tree hugging type of story. And it's hard to believe whether or not it could be true or not. But, you know, in the research, like I've said before, that we've done, I tend to believe that there is some sort of truth to it. I don't know about the whole universal aspect, spiritual aspect of it all, but I do find a difference in the kids that are being born within the last 15, 20 years. I think that they are, like I said before, much more intelligent than they were 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And I don't know if that's because, they're being born in the technology age, and a lot of them are being exposed to a lot of things that we really weren't exposed to until we were in our 20s and 30s. So I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's a concept that could be actually, something that we research even further and do another show on. But I really hope that the transformation or the mission that these children are expected to fulfill, the spirits within the children are expected to fulfill, actually happens. And I guess we'll soon see when that happens at the end of next year. And hopefully we'll be around January 1st, 2013.
Well, I plan on being around. I think, the main thing I got from this is that, I did get the happy feeling. It just really just struck me as something that's really nice and really good. And I know it's real hippie-like and thinking about the consciousness and stuff like that, but there really is, to me, in my personal perspective, there is some truth to it. We do have fear. There's a lot of fear in the world right now, but there's also a good. And good, maybe it's reading too many romance novels, maybe it's reading too much, listening to Hair too many times. Good needs to win. And if it's something to believe in, if it's something that gives us hope, then I'm all for it. And, like I said, hopefully I know some of these crystals already. I just can't wait to meet them. I'm sure they're all around us. And I'm sure our listeners, you might have your own ideas about it. And like I said, we started out with the creepy black-eyed kids, and now we're ending up with the nice, wonderful little earth angel. So there's two sides to every story. Now, whether or not the black-eyed kids, they're real or not, that remains to be seen. Part of me wants to say, yes, there's evil, but then again, the other part of me is saying, we need more research. We need to expand further. And I'm going to say the same thing on this side of it. This is something that I really do want to believe in. So I think we do need to do more research. I found online that they actually have classes there's classes and seminars for normal everyday people to understand crystals and understand rainbows. So, there's a movement out there for consciousness, and then there's also the black-eyed kids who are out there. So what you believe, I think we all need to keep an open mind. I think we still need to keep researching everything. And hopefully what we did tonight just kind of like opened some doors for you and maybe showed you something that you might want to pursue further. Look it up. Find out what you think about it. Even if it got you to think about the subject in a different manner, then I'm happy. How about you, Anthony?
Yeah, I would ask that our listeners who are listening live now or even on archive to, check out YouTube and type in Indigo Children, and you're going to see some videos, some homemade videos, and then there's others that were interviewed. I think I watched something on ABC News, one of the morning shows, and you're going to actually get to hear from children who have been labeled Indigo Children or Crystal Children, and you're going to be amazed at the way that they speak and what they come out with as far as their idea of. And they're actually explaining what their missions are. They're talking about how they want to spread the love and help the world and do good for everybody. And I saw some videos of a 2- and 3-year-old child that were just amazing. You would, if you closed your eyes, except for the tone in their voice, you would think that they were 15, 16, even 25-year-olds. The way and the manner of which that they were speaking, it was just amazing that they have that higher self already at such a young age. And kids learning their ABCs and 1, 2, 3 is hard enough, but for these kids to actually have an understanding of a spiritual higher realm, to me, there's something to it. There's got to be something to it. So I think we're going to end the show on that, but why don't we talk about what we're going to discuss next week, which I think is going to be an interesting topic, and it's going to be a first for us to do. Lucy, you want to give them a hint as to what we're going to talk about?
No, I want you to. I'm too excited about
I can. Yeah, we are going to, the topic of the show for next week is actually going to be about ghost hunting. We're going to discuss the sort of the do's and don'ts of ghost hunting. We'll call it, for lack of a better term, Ghost Hunting 101. But, Lucy and I had the privilege of investigating a lot of different places, a lot of interesting places, too, that we'll share in the show. But also we'll talk about what things you should do, should not do, how to investigate, who sort of when is the right point in your life that you should be investigating, because there are things that you need to actually do before you even step into a haunted location and understand in order to have a sort of positive result. So I think that'll be an interesting topic, no, Lucy?
Yeah, Anthony, one thing I do want to get across is that please keep in mind that by no way are we claiming to be experts at ghost hunting. This is basically our collective interpretation of the things that we've learned. I mean, both of us, we started, it starts with that first investigation. And there's things that as you go along, you learn. And there's certain things that I kind of wish I knew the first time I went investigating that I know now, things that I've learned. So hopefully what we want to do is just kind of share some of these things and just kind of talk about the do's and don'ts and mistakes that we've made and mistakes that we might have seen others made. I mean, we've had the opportunity to investigate with some really, really experienced and really great people. And hopefully we can take some of the stuff that we've learned and help, share them with you. Maybe your next investigation will be a little bit better, with a hint that you pick up. So, again, like I said, we're not claiming to be experts. It's simply our interpretation of things and the things that we've learned.
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. We had a great time. We hope that you also enjoyed tonight's topic. And if you have any questions or concerns, please visit us on our Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio. And I see Jules has mentioned in the chat if we're going to do a show on shadow people. Yes, we will do that in the future. So look for that. Look for the scheduling on that. And that's it. So we're going to sign off, Lucy. I think tonight's show was really great. I don't know if you want to add anything else before we go out.
Yes. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the people that called in. Anthony, again, I have to thank you all the time for everything you've done for this show. To our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. I know today was a crazy day with Black Friday. We look forward to joining you again. Come on by next week. Let's talk about ghost hunting. And as always, thank you. Good night.